Welcome to Commercial Property Deep Dive by Eureka Business Group. In each episode, we break down the essentials of managing commercial properties with expert advice and actionable tips. Let's dive right in.
All right, everyone, get ready because today we're going deep on attracting those top-tier retail tenants you always hear about.
It's a competitive world out there for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I'm excited to tap into the expertise of EBG Commercial Management for this one.
They've got a ton of experience, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, so we're talking real-world strategies.
Exactly. No ivory tower theories here. This is straight from the trenches, Now, when you think about those prime retail spots...
The ones that just seem to always be buzzing?
Yeah. What is it that makes them so magnetic for those A-list tenants?
Well, EBG is really clear on this point, and they say it all boils down to understanding your market first.
Makes sense, right? Like you wouldn't open a surf shop in the middle of the desert.
Exactly. They actually use the analogy of building a house. You got to have that solid foundation before you get fancy.
Okay, I like that. So how do we, as property owners or managers, how do we start building that market foundation?
So EBG breaks this down into a few key pieces. The first being demographic analysis. You got to know your audience, right? Age, income, lifestyle, all that.
Like painting a picture of who lives in the area.
But they go even deeper than that, looking at consumer behavior patterns.
So it's not just who they are, but how they spend.
Exactly. What are people buying? What are their shopping habits? Are they into online or in-person experiences?
That good stuff. I also noticed that EBG really emphasizes looking at the local economic trends, too.
Oh, absolutely. Is there a booming industry nearby? New housing developments going up? All of that feeds into understanding the kind of retail that will flourish.
It's like predicting the future, in a way.
In a way, yeah. And to really get a grip on these factors, they actually suggest some pretty specific actions you can take, like targeted surveys.
Oh, yeah, those are interesting. They're not just your average demographic surveys.
No, not at all. They go deep, like asking about preferences for eco-friendly businesses, unique retail experiences, things like that.
So you're not just looking at broad strokes, you're trying to tap into the pulse of what people actually want.
Exactly. It's like custom tailoring your tenant search to what the market is craving.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so we've got our market intel down, Kat. We know who our audience is, what they like. Now, how do we actually lure those desirable tenants to our properties?
Well, that's where things get even more strategic.
I'm ready. Give me the good stuff.
Well, first off, EBG really stresses that lease terms are not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Oh, for sure.
You've got to consider the individual tenant's needs and what the overall market dynamics are.
Okay, so walk me through it. What are some of the levels we can pull here to make those leases attractive?
Well, I think the most obvious and important is the rental rate itself.
It's got to be competitive, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And EBG is a big advocate for benchmarking against similar properties. They even talk about using software to aggregate lease data so you can see what the market will bear.
That's smart. No more guessing games.
And then thinking about flexibility in lease duration is huge too.
So not just sticking to a standard 5-year lease or something.
Right. Maybe a shorter term lease would be better to help a new business get on their feet. Or a longer term to lock in a stable tenant. It depends on so many factors.
I see. So it's all about finding that sweet spot.
And then there are incentives to think about too, like rent abatement.
Okay, that's one I was curious about. Break it down for me.
Basically, think of it as a temporary rent discount. Maybe for that initial lease period to give the tenant a little breathing room.
Makes sense, especially in a tougher market.
Imagine a space that's been sitting empty for a while. A few months of free rent could be a great incentive to finally get someone in there.
Yeah, it's like a little welcome gift, right?
Exactly. So we've got competitive rental rates, flexible terms, maybe even some incentives in place. But there's one more huge piece of this puzzle that EBG really digs into.
Let me guess. It's the property itself.
You got it. Because you could have the best lease terms in the world, but if the property isn't appealing...
It's a no-go.
Right. And this is where their property management expertise shines. They go beyond just, making sure everything is clean and functional.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are their secret tips for making a property truly stand out?
Well, they talk a lot about tailoring upgrades to the type of tenant you're trying to attract.
So like a one-size-fits-all approach won't cut it.
Not at all. For example, if you're going for a high-end boutique, imagine investing in some really luxurious restrooms with top-of-the-line finishes.
Oh, yeah. That would make a statement for sure.
Or let's say you're trying to attract a restaurant, making sure the HVAC system is top-notch and can handle a busy kitchen.
Smart. Thinking ahead, anticipating those needs.
And then something that really caught my eye, they're big on eco-friendly upgrades.
Yeah, that's such a hot topic these days, and for good reason.
It's not just a trend. It's becoming a core value for a lot of businesses and consumers, too. They point to certifications like TAN and WELL as major selling points.
So picture this. Solar panels, energy-efficient lighting, maybe even a green roof. It's not just about saving money, it's a whole vibe.
Absolutely. And they don't just focus on the big-ticket items either. Updated signage, fresh paint, landscaping, all of that contributes to that all-important first impression.
It's like dressing your property up for success, right?
Exactly. But even with the most gorgeous building, fully decked out with eco-friendly features, EBG reminds us that there's a bigger picture to consider.
Oh.
Tell me more. They call it the tenant-friendly environment. It's about the whole experience from the moment a customer arrives.
So thinking beyond just the four walls of the space itself.
Exactly. Is there ample parking? Is it safe? Is it inviting? It's all about creating a destination that people want to visit, you know?
Totally. It makes me think about those shopping centers that have outdoor seating areas, maybe some public art, a nice atmosphere.
Right. Or even just a well-lit walkway that makes people feel safe at night.
Safety's huge. And EBG suggests partnering with local businesses, too, for events and things.
Oh, yeah. Like a farmer's market or a concert series, anything to bring people together.
So you're fostering a sense of community, a buzz that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And speaking of buzz, we can't forget about the digital world.
True. In today's age, I bet online presence is just as important as the physical one, right?
More important than ever, and EBG has some really insightful tips about how to make it work for you.
Yeah.
But I think we need to save that for our next segment.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. But before we go, what was one of the biggest surprises you learned from EBG so far?
That's a good question, I think. I'm ready to dive into this whole online presence thing because, let's be real, it's 2024.
It's not just the future, it's the now.
Exactly. So EBG, they talk a lot about how crucial this is for attracting tenants, but what does that actually look like in the world of commercial real estate?
Well, in a nutshell, it's all about showcasing your property in the best light online, just like you would with anything you're trying to,
Yeah, sell, promote, whatever. And they recommend a multi-pronged approach, starting with your website.
Okay, so not just a basic contact page.
No. This needs to be a well-designed professional website. Think high-quality photos, maybe even some virtual tours.
Oh, and drone footage. That's always impressive.
Exactly. It's all about capturing the essence of the space, and the surrounding area, too.
So it's like creating a digital first impression.
And don't forget about social media.
Of course. Can't live without it these days.
Platforms like Instagram and Facebook are gold mines for reaching potential tenants. EBG suggests sharing behind-the-scenes glimpses, tenant testimonials.
Showcasing the lifestyle, basically.
Right. It's about creating a buzz, making people excited about the location.
Makes sense. And what about those online listing platforms? Are those important too?
Absolutely. Think of them like digital matchmakers. You want to have really compelling listings on those sites with all the details, great photos.
So it's like online dating for retail spaces.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You're trying to attract the right match.
Okay, I'm seeing the bigger picture now. It's not just about having an online presence. It's about strategically using it to market your property.
And that's where technology comes in. Even more so.
Oh, do tell.
EBG is a big proponent of property management software.
Okay, I'm listening. I love when technology makes things easier.
Oh, this is a game changer for sure. These platforms are so much more than just managing rent payments now.
I've heard they can be pretty powerful. So how can they help with this whole digital marketing piece?
Well, for one thing, imagine being able to track website traffic. See which listings are getting the most hits.
That would be super useful data.
You can also send out targeted email campaigns to potential tenants who fit your ideal profile.
So you're not just blasting out generic messages.
Nope, it's all about being strategic, efficient.
I like it. And I think some of these platforms even integrate with social media, right?
Exactly. You can schedule posts, manage your online presence, all in one place.
It's like having a virtual assistant dedicated to marketing your property.
Exactly. Okay, so let's say we've nailed the online presence. We're generating leads. Potential tenants are reaching out. Yep. What's next?
Time to seal the deal, right?
But EBG reminds us that even in the digital age, human connection is key.
Can't forget about the personal touch.
Building strong relationships with tenants, it's everything.
Yeah.
And it starts with communication.
So responding promptly, providing all the info they need, being transparent.
Yep, all of that. Building trust right from the get-go.
And going that extra mile to personalize the experience, right?
Exactly. Maybe offering customized build-out options, a welcome package with local info, tenant appreciation events.
It's those little things that make a big difference.
And when it comes to keeping those great tenants, that ongoing communication and support is crucial.
So checking in regularly, proactive maintenance, that kind of thing.
It's all about being a partner, not just a landlord, And that's where EBG really shines. They have some truly innovative ideas for attracting and keeping those A-list tenants.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Give me some examples. What are these outside-the-box strategies?
One that really stood out to me is offering value-added services, things that go beyond just the physical space itself.
Okay, like what?
Imagine providing access to co-working spaces, conference rooms, maybe even a fitness center.
Ooh, like creating a mini ecosystem within the property.
Exactly. They even suggest partnering with local businesses to offer discounts to tenants.
Ooh, I like that. Discounted gym memberships, preferred rates at restaurants, that kind of thing.
It's all about thinking holistically, creating a whole experience for the tenant.
Makes sense. And I remember they talked about revenue sharing agreements too, right?
Yeah, that's a more unconventional approach.
Yeah.
The landlord gets a percentage of the tenant's sales.
It's definitely a different model. Is that something they recommend?
They say it can be very powerful, but it requires a lot of trust and careful planning.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, that's for sure. But it's cool to see those creative approaches.
Definitely. And, throughout all of this, EBG really emphasizes one key point: staying ahead of the curve.
Because the world of retail is constantly changing.
Always. And what works today might be outdated tomorrow. So how do we stay ahead of the game? Well, that's a question best left for our final segment.
Okay, you're killing me with the cliffhangers. But before we get to that future-focused stuff, what's one actionable takeaway you think our listeners could implement right now?
Let's see.
Okay, let's talk future. We've got to stay ahead of the curve, especially in retail. EBG kept saying that. So what's their take on how to future-proof a property?
Well, their whole philosophy is about being proactive and adaptable. It's almost like they're saying, don't just find the perfect tenant for today, find the tenant that'll thrive 5-10 years down the road.
It's a long game for sure.
And a smart one. One of the big things they suggest is keeping a close eye on emerging trends in tech. The retail world is always evolving.
Totally. So what kind of trends are we talking about? Give me some examples.
Experiential retail is huge right now.
Oh, I've heard that term thrown around. What does it actually mean, though?
It's about creating an experience, not just a place to buy things. People, especially younger shoppers, they want to be entertained, engaged,
So think interactive displays, pop-up shops, events.
Exactly. And EBG says property owners should think about having spaces that are adaptable for these kinds of things.
Makes sense, especially if you're trying to attract those cutting-edge tenants.
And then omnichannel retail is another big one.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. Break it down for me.
It's about blending online and offline shopping. Someone might discover a product online but want to try it on in-store,
Right, or browse in a store and then buy it online later.
EBG says landlords need to help their tenants make that whole experience seamless.
So things like in-store pickup, good Wi-Fi.
All of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's tech. EBG is really excited about augmented reality and virtual reality, all that stuff.
Whoa, now we're talking futuristic. How would those even work in retail?
Imagine being able to virtually try on clothes. See how furniture would look in your home, all without leaving the store.
That's wild. It would definitely create that wow factor.
Exactly. EBG thinks those technologies are going to be game changers.
Okay, so we've got experiential retail, omni-channel strategies, and VRR on the horizon. What's the common thread here?
Flexibility. Being able to adapt to whatever comes next. EBG says property owners need to be open to moving away from traditional leases.
So shorter leases, performance-based rents, all those things we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's about creating win-win situations, partnerships between landlords and tenants.
Makes sense. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive, really. EBG Commercial Management knows their stuff. What's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will remember?
I think the biggest thing is attracting great retail tenants is not about sitting back and waiting. You have to be proactive, strategic, and willing to adapt.
Couldn't agree more. This has been super insightful.
And this is just the beginning, right? Keep learning, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover the next big retail trend.
Until next time, everyone, happy investing.
Thanks for tuning in to Commercial Property Deep Dive by Eureka Business Group. We hope you enjoyed today's insights. Don't forget to subscribe for more expert tips and real stories to help you navigate the world of commercial property management. Until next time, keep thriving.